Good afternoon, Tony Abbatini, Beyond the Ball, coming to you from Frozen Ropes in Chester, New York. We want to thank our sponsors, Walden Savings Bank, for their participation and contribution. Special guest this week, Dr. Jyun Shimizu, founder and director of Integrative Human Optimization. I'm just going to warn you, this session is, it's really talking about things that are really interesting. We're going to go from intermittent fasting. We're going to talk about psychoneurobioenergetics, the quantum realm, what is exactly that means, really getting a deep dive into the body-mind-spirit and how integrative medicine has become the way in which we're trying to optimize human performance and overall health. Dr. Jyun bridges ancient wisdom, modern science, and emerging technologies to redefine this integrative human optimization. With over 35 years of experience as a conscious entrepreneur, researcher, and co-author of the best-selling book, Dr. Shimizu, has transformed approaches to well-being from ego-centered performances to awareness-centered living. Stay tuned for Dr. Jyun. Good morning, Dr. Jyun.
Good morning, Tony.
It is a pleasure. It is a pleasure to have you as our guest on Beyond the Ball.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Inviting me to share my knowledge and what I'm passionate about, and see how we can help to upgrade every single athlete's use his performance. So I'm here.
Very exciting topic. I was fortunate enough to meet Dr. Jyun in Verona, Italy last month. We had an opportunity to chat, interact. I saw some of his teachings. He saw me doing a baseball camp and doing some meditation and some breath play with the children. And his Shinka Quantum Institute, which was just recently launched, very exciting. I'm actually very privileged to be part on a consulting basis to provide the mental visual component of health and wellness. So I thank you publicly, Dr. Jyun, for allowing me to be part of the dream team with yourself and even Dr. Koichi. So thank you. But I want you to spend some time early on. In layman's terms, talk about the Shinka Quantum Institute, the purpose of it, and how it is quite different than some of the other approaches that are out there in the health and wellness world.
Yes, thanks so much. First of all, I truly appreciated your innovation, your creation of the visual psychology, and your mental performance. I was so taken by your brilliance and your open focus, all your knowledge. It was just like I was looking for that perfect marriage.
Thank you, Jyun.
Physical body and the mental. Yes. So thank you. So yes, I like to share with everybody about this. Why my approach is so unique? Because just going to the background of what I have done. So over the 30 years of medicine, starting from traditional Chinese medicine, is all focused on the energy. As everybody knows, in ancient time, they say qi, 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 called vital energy. And in the Ayurvedic way, say the prana. So now, fast forward to the modern sciences, they say, energy has to be electrocurrency. Exactly, because your body cannot function without electricity in the body, correct? So every single cell, you have batteries, and then your cell, which we have over 100 trillion cells, they're constantly, every single second, they're communicating. So I'd like you to take a moment to think about the body. You see physical being as a visual. When you see the person, you see the figure. But behind this figure of a human body, so the physical body, who's operating everything in the perfect way is that how the energy communicating every single cell. So the communication, when you have a great communication between each person, you and your friends have a great communication, energy goes back and forth. If there's a fight and there's a conflict, it doesn't go well, as we know. So body's the same thing, right? If your neighbor's cell, they don't like the communication, whether interrupted by stress, emotional stress, interrupted by the chemical stress, interrupted by the physical injury stress. There's three components. interrupt the communication. So this is all about, perfect health, or how can I optimize our body. It's all about how can I identify those, insults, the physical insult, chemical insult, or emotional, psychological insult. When you create this harmony or better communication, this is where we can restore our blueprints, where we have a perfect picture. Does that make sense?
Yes, tremendously. In our world now, Dr. Jyun, it is often repeated: body, mind, and spirit.
Yes.
People are constantly realizing that this integrative approach that you have been studying and I think are at the forefront over the last 30 years, knowing that we have the human body, the physical being of who we are. We have the mind really from a neurological standpoint and the relationship of the cells and how we are wired and its effect that we have on thoughts and emotions, and then obviously the spirit piece, whether we're defining spirit as Christianity, Islamic, or just simply, as I call it, the being curious and knowing that we are all connected, that there is some energy source in the universe that we can all tap into. But share with our audience, because I know in the United States, everyone is talking about body, mind, and spirit. Everyone understands the benefit of holistic living and nutrition and understanding the power of the thoughts. And I love the conversations we've had, and we've had guests before, that your thoughts that are created, right, are manifested into emotions. Your emotions eventually will affect and trigger all parts of your body, whether it's neurologically, psychologically. It has an effect on the immunology piece of it. But as a segue in, right, talk to the audience about this PNBE, which I think is so fascinating, understanding the psychoneurobioenergetic integration. In layman's terms, Dr. Jyun, what is that, and how does your institute address that?
Yes, thank you so much. It's beautifully said. I really respect how you put it together, all your thoughts. Thank you so much. So I can go right into it. So PNBE is this I trademark these terms because this is my work over the last decade. So this precursor of this PNBE, actually neuroscientific word. I don't go technical part of it, but this just everybody need to understand.
Yes.
This is every single medicine, every single neuroscientist talk about PNEI. That's abbreviation of P stands for psycho, N stands for neuro, E stands for the endo, I stands for the immunology. So basically, the Dr. Candace Pert and the other few neuroscientists, they discovered when you think something, when you thought of something, all of a sudden, when you look at under the microscope in the brain, they produce specific hormones based on your thoughts and emotions. In other words, when you're angry, they create angry peptide hormones in your brain. And there's a sadness, all of a sudden comes up the sadness peptide, neurohormones pops up. So basically, your thoughts creating actual physical materials in the brain. Then here it goes, cascade effect. They are going to communicate to your organs and glands and different cells, cascade effect through the hormones and through the signal. And then in the end, how going the immune system going to react. So that was the base of the huge neuroscientific study. But I want to just make it much simpler and easier for everybody to digest. As we speak, when we think, right, when you think about it, there's a signal comes up no matter what. Just like I always tell this clients, please close your eye and can you imagine there's a lemon right in front of you, and you just slice the lemon, you open it, and you squeeze, and you gotta bring this lemon close to your mouth. And when you imagine that, what is your physiological reaction? Saliva comes out, isn't it? Like, oh gosh, my body's reacting already. Well, why? Because your thoughts produce already physical reaction, so you cannot separate them. So But so that physical reaction comes through this, again, energy system, because again, physical cannot exist without energy. As we said, we have a communication between the nerve and cell. And how they communicate it, they are sharing electrons, energy. By sharing energy, then you are vital, or you are, too much heat is not good either, because that's called fever. And then when you get too much, go, run, hype, pretty soon you get exhausted. And the exhaustion you start getting to the other end. It's called chronic lowering energy, right? So basically, we are like a car batteries. So you don't want to overheat them, but if it's too cold, the engine doesn't work either. So you don't have this just beautiful, perfect spot, that constant, nice communication, and then they have a great energy system. So then they can optimize their physical performance based on how the energy, where they stands for. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes a lot of sense, Dr. Jyun, and you touched on so many different topics. I look at it from the athlete. We certainly know that visualization is a key component of performance, but really, to your point, what you think you become, and I love the line, some of the work that I read about. You are not your thoughts, and I think when you start trying to help players and even just lay people, for them to be aware that their thoughts that are being created, you have the choice not to create and allow those thoughts, as you call it, to be cascaded into physical sensations and affect the body. And I think it really starts with understanding, and a line that I'll use all the time: you are not your thoughts. This classic, you are the witness. There is a seat of consciousness, if you will, and for players and athletes to understand, and just human beings to understand, that this witness, this awareness, the thought of being angry, well, the anger doesn't define you. It becomes you when you don't separate yourself from the thought. And this being an active witness, or the seat of consciousness, where you can allow these thoughts to come in, to come out. And it becomes a choice. But for so many people, as you have seen, these thoughts cripple them, and very soon starts affecting all parts of their body. How do you even begin, from your perspective, to separate this thought paradigm, knowing that these thoughts are man-made, they're created from within, and we have a choice as human beings and as athletes to separate ourselves from the thought?
Yeah, I think there's a called observer effect. How can I observe, or like you said earlier, that being aware of their thoughts, right? That number one, the awareness is the starting point for everything, isn't it?
Yes.
So when you are aware, that, okay, I'm identifying, okay, I am angry. Okay, no, you're not embodying the anger, but then they're separating themselves to be observing how you're feeling. It's almost all called introspection, with the word.
Yes.
And then when that happens, then that consciousness start engaging to the subconsciousness, because many times we have about 50,000 thoughts a day. The constantly comes out, and about 80-90% of thoughts we don't identify, because it comes and goes and comes and goes. But that thoughts often that comes out because of all this, when you hear something, when you're seeing something that triggers that underlying of a subconscious, unconscious patterns that has been developed, from our 0 to 8 years old, or sometimes called ancestral DNA imprints. So those things will keep coming up. But when we identify, and then when you kind of start, separate yourself, become observer, I think this is the starting from everything.
It's interesting, Dr. Jyun, and we've talked about this before, and this segues in on. The brain is very good at doing one thing, the law of primary thought. And I know with athletes in particular, when our visual system becomes really important, when we make seeing and what that actually means. And we certainly know, you and I have had this discussion on
Yes.
the effect that looking at nothing, the classic line that I use in my book and everywhere, when I look at nothing, I see everything, but the space, this world in which we live in, particularly when we're outside, it's invisible to the eyes, but not the brain. And it's a comfort food to an extent. And so much research has been done on the effect of alpha waves and brainwave frequency when we're in, quote, good space. That's why we feel so good when we're outside. That's why when we pay attention at a slightly less level, we're not hyper-focused, or as I say, we're slam, crammed, and jammed in these computers all the time. And so when you allow your visual system to be the priority, you think less. And it's really, it's kind of a chicken before the egg. What comes first, these thoughts that eventually destroy us or are counterproductive, or is it the way in which we're viewing visually the outside world? And I think we can, and I know with athletes, to get them to, I just want to be in the seeing visual world right now. These thoughts that are so out of control, and how many of them, you're right, so many of them come and go, but the ones that stick, we can learn from a technique standpoint that if you just stay visual and understand what that means, it does have a calming effect, and it at least railroad some of these thoughts that from a performance standpoint are crucial.
Yes, absolutely. I think your study and your passion about this open focus, Dr. Hemi's work.
Yeah,
that was brilliant. The moment he let go and surrender, that boom, you see the space. When you see everything else surrounding around you, then mind, brainwaves all of a sudden kicked into the alpha, and that was that boom aha moment of this. Oh, this happened to our body, the mind, the brains.
And
right?
Dr. Jyun, that's so simple. And when people will ask me, and I'm sure they've asked you, the health and wellness, it has to start somewhere. And I'm on your website that you have launched, and it's so much good information. If anyone were to go to Shinka.com, SHINKAQI, you'll read all about Dr. Jyun and the events and the shopping and whatnot. But there was one featured line, and it was so powerful to me, and I had some of our colleagues take a look at it. Transforming human potential one individual at a time. Yes. From children to elite athletes, we personalize the path to vitality, longevity, and peak performance. Now that's quite a mouthful. You in one sentence have cured all the problems of the world, and everyone is going to live in eternal bliss. And I think that's great. Yeah. I want you to share with our listening audience how to get started, other than connecting with you and learning more about this connection and PNBE and what PNI versus PNEI is all about. And really, if people just would understand the following formula, there is an integration that how it starts with where stress comes from and the devastating effect that stress has, which typically starts with thought, and how it just inflames our body throughout. How does one get started when they finally surrender and realize that whether it's conventional medicine or denial isn't working, and their physical health and their emotional health is at a place where they just have either given up or they're looking for someone like yourself to help? Where do they start, Dr. Jyun?
Yes, well, one thing I really love and everybody can do, simple exercise, and always has been demonstrated by the many scientists and research, called the heart rate variability, the heart coherence, which means it's kind of a little bit of a technical word, but mostly important things is that we know we have this called a fight and flight, and then there's a calming side of it. So this is called autonomic nervous system that regulates your fighting, exciting or stress. Then there's the other side of it. I'm relaxed and I can eat and I can sleep. So there's a two nervous system continuously having conversation inside our body. So the majority of the population, including ourselves, because Tony and I were trying to be as mindful as possible, but life things happen, right? But as we practice about this, be aware, and the number one thing, so what we could do is to how to have this exciting type of nervous system. I'm so stressed, and then I need to be other side, calming and relaxing, sleeping. Okay, how can I have a better conversation between those two sides of it? This is the breath work. Number one, you need to really rely on the breath, because breath is the number one can regulate, control. It's free, and in any moment, any time you can do to reset this autonomic nervous system.
Well, what's interesting, Dr. Jyun, and you're right, certainly breath work, I like to call it breath play. I like that because it's a fun way of doing it. And yes. The human breath, we breathe approximately 20 to 30,000 breaths a day. And if we can just get the universe to be more intentional in their breathing, and maybe you can elaborate on intentional breathing and the proper way to breathe, knowing that the breath, as we all know, there's three components to it. There's the inhalation, there's the hold, there's the exhalation. Where does the beginning of regulating breath start helping modify the central nervous system?
Yes, I like one study, a profound study have done by Dr. Richard Gerbet, and he is a research doctor, psychologist at the University of San Diego. And he done this study, and his curiosity was that using this HRV, heart rate variability, if you can regulate your heart rate in a way that have a good, nice rhythm, what really happened, which kind of translate with this, how we can create this balanced nervous system. So there's in a hospital in the University of San Diego, they gather over 100 patients, chronic illnesses, who has migraine headaches, high blood pressure, diabetes, you can name it, all those major disease, chronic. So they say, okay, let's take the subject and then let's have them do this breath work, because they've done the study, okay, looking at the monk, Larvae, Swami Indians, those brilliant people who looks very calm always, it looks very coherent. What do they do? What kind of breaths do they do? So when they looked at it, researched it, they do about 4 to 6 breaths per minute, which means 10 to 12 seconds per breath. So one breath takes about 10 to 12 seconds. So when they start looking at it, okay, so when you inhale, so through the nose, so you can close the eye and visualize the energy, the air, the oxygen comes through the nose. So then slowly goes through the mouth, through the trachea, all the way to down the lower side of the abdomen. And you can imagine that lower abdominal area start kind of expanding like a balloon slowly in 4 seconds. Then there's some certain pause, you can't really take it anymore. Then transition starts, deflating, right? Starts, contracting. And then air slowly comes out through this, the throat and out to the mouth. Takes about 6 to 8 seconds. So the exhalation is almost double the amount of inhalation. So 4 second inhale, 6 to 8 second exhale. By doing that, what happened? So about 30 minutes, if you continuously doing that every single day, they did 6 weeks of study. 6 weeks later, 80% of a chronic illness patient, migraine headache disappears, diabetes disappears, high blood pressure starts disappearing, all the disease start disappearing. So this is a profound study. This just we're talking about the disease, but same thing. We start from high performance, better performance. How can I do better performance? When your nervous system is coherence to regulating, so your muscle, nervous system, everything's optimum flow state where you're ready to go. So simple exercise, this Dr. Gerbet says, 4 second inhale, and then 6 to 8 second exhale. Just continue 30 minutes with just nice music. Do it every single day. Just do the practice entrainment, and then 6 weeks later, see what happens. So I apply this one, and then wow, it's an amazing phenomenon happens. So many my clients and patients.
Well, it's so simple if you think about it, Dr. Jyun, but so profound. And
yes,
when you counsel athletes, when we counsel and provide good information, many times it's the execution part. We live in a
Yes.
world many times where,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll hear it from players, I don't have time for this, Tony, or
Mm-hmm.
I understand the benefit of it, but how do I do? It's the execution, as we call it in the States.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Nike rule. Just go do it. Okay,
It's good.
and if someone cannot find, as you just walked us through, time
Mm-hmm.
to have this inhale, exhale rhythm and this pattern, and find quiet time,
Mm-hmm.
but they find time to take medication, they
Mm-hmm.
find time to eat processed foods, they find time to have alcohol. It really, it's the beginning, this breath play or breath work as you're describing it, it's the beginning of meditation, and we'll talk about that at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Athletes that visualize or are tremendous in imagery skills, it all starts with the breath.
Yes.
Yet, why is it that we have a world that does not follow this practice and finds time to do this, Dr. Jyun?
That's that's a $1 million question, isn't it? This is my clients and patients. I mean, some of them. There's I think two ways, right? Once some people get so desperate, I need to change, and then some people inspired by something, then I love that, I'm gonna do it. So inspiration, desperation. So those things are two strong primary agenda that people can move one or the others, isn't it? But if it's in the middle, yeah, I want to get better, but I have better other choice. Better other choice I'm going to make. But I'm gonna just do eat McDonald's, or I'm gonna have some coffee or alcohol, right? So that constant this inner chatting. So number one is that to me always say, I always have them write down. Number one is a journal, because writing is really good. Visually, you need to write the seeing, your writing, your expression, why you want to do it, what you want to do. If you want to do breath work, you want to get better, and then you want to write down the reason. Why do you want to do that? Because if you don't put the time to think about, you want to improve the baseball, or you want to become like professional, I want to become, goal is here, I'm going to win the world championship, whatever it is. And then why? It's not just, because I want to win. But what's the drive behind
Right.
them? You have a certain body, the desire, the drive that you have to have. So you have to identify that, number one, to do what you do.
Well, let's continue on the path.
Yeah.
When people hear the term meditation, many people don't understand it. Many people have a preconceived notion. They're seeing the Buddhist monks, sitting in the mountains in sub-zero weather, trying to increase their body temperature. There's so much, I think, misinformation as to what meditation is all about. To me, and there's the research is uncontroverted. The more you can, even if it's 2 or 3 minutes a day, even if it's part of your breath play, learning how to meditate and learning how to be quiet. And however you define that, I know in my world, I love meditating with my eyes open, because as athletes and really as human beings, we spend most of our times with our visual system awake. But talk to the audience about the different types of meditation and the stigma that many times it comes with that. I think people would like to try meditation, Dr. Jyun, but how do you do it? When do you do it? Why do you do it? And knowing, quite frankly, as I tell some of our clients, there's no right or wrong way to meditate.
Yes, exactly. Because the term meditation is that the misinterpreted in many ways. Because really, meditation is to focus on something. That is the simple term of meditation. Whether most of the time, people see as a meditation is focus on closing the eye, doing the breath work. That's a focus. Yeah, that's one way to focus on to clear your mind. But when you're playing tennis or playing the baseball, when you're focused on, or you're walking and looking at the nature, so you are in the zone that your mind become clear. That the moment you become the clear, that is the part of the meditation.
Yes.
So it can be anything. Yeah. So I play tennis. I love that. With doing that, I get in the zone. I feel like a sense of a great meditation. My nervous system regulating. I feel fantastic.
Well, how would the non-athlete, right, the typical worker, could they find time, whether it's in the morning during the quiet time, and most meditation practices are done early in the day or as you're getting ready to calm down at night, finding time to, for example, I've told clients, just learn to count backwards from 100 to 1.
Yes.
And just simply on every number, you're more aware of your intentional breathing. If you want to add, and you're right, focusing on the breath, focusing on your heart, focusing on gratitude, focusing on anything, that becomes the anchor during meditation. Would you agree, Dr. Jyun?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You're so right. Yes.
So the question comes back again. This is one of the most effective ways traditionally one can better prepare themselves for the day, can reduce stress, yet most people don't do it. We're back to the disconnect from it's important, I need to do it, but I can't find to do it. How do you in your practice, other than whether it's holding people accountable, and you're right, journaling, or as we call it in New York, you need to jog every day. JOG stands for our Journal of Greatness, and it's a reflection. It's a conversation that you're having with yourself. It's a contract that says, I will find time today to do X, Y, and Z. Yet most people don't meditate. Most people are not intentionally breathing. How do we as practitioners continue to remind them and allow them to realize that all of the other portals, and we'll talk about quantum mechanics and other components, but learning to be quiet and learning how to regulate your central nervous system, that is the beginning of all other components of health and wellness.
Yes, absolutely. So the honestly, my simple reminder is that what I learned from really busy, high-intense CEO. People say having this, $100 million company, CEO, go, get so many responsibility. Where can I find the time to do exercise? Where can I find the time to take my, time for myself? So this person said, remember, you have to make an appointment for yourself.
Yes.
If it's appointment, which you're not going to show up at appointment, you will. Business, very important appointment. It is appointment for yourself. So, that type of commitment, appointment, you don't break the appointment. You need to show up in the appointment.
Well, this gets back to the term mental wealth, and I know you and I have talked about that before. People say mental health. To me, mental wealth is the ultimate currency. You can have all the money in the world, Dr. Jyun, but without your happiness, without your mental state being in a sense of happiness and joy and learning how to be calm, you do not live life to the fullest. And I think you're right. It has to be a priority, no different than going to the doctor. And you know what? We're creatures of habits. You change your actions when you change your habits. And after a certain period of time, and there's so much research, is it 1,000 hours? Is it 100 hours? But at some point, if people find the time and make a commitment to it, it becomes a habit, and you're not fighting yourself anymore to it. But to your point, it has to be a priority. Mental wealth and one's stress control has to be a priority, both in what we eat, who we interact with, and learning. This body-mind connection really starts with the mind. Talk to me about nutrition. Where does nutrition come into play with PNBE, and the overall health that we're all looking to acquire?
Yes. So last 30 years of research, looking at the patients and clients, working from the professional athletes, all of that, it comes down to this. We are all unique individual. There's so many in the nutritional diet terms out there: Atkins diet, South Beach diet, the vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian. So many principles out there, isn't it? So there's certain, each of this method, it works and serves for certain individual. That's why many people who follow at first, when you become fashion trend, they go, "Oh my gosh, when I do this, I feel fantastic." Yes, because your profile hits the goal. Or maybe when you're eating all the processed, not great food all the time, all of a sudden you clean up the food, everybody feels great at the beginning.
Yes.
But when you continue this particular diet for a while, people start noticing, particular group of people says continuously feeling great. But the some group says, no, after the 6 months or a year later, my energy start going down. I don't feel good as I was feeling before. So all those different differentiations are happening because we carry the different engine. Because looking at the car, every single car has a different size engine, different fuel requirements. So you have to hit them, your geniuses, your God-given engine that you have to recognize and decode them. So always when I talk about number one, most important thing is looking at your blood type. Blood type, 4 different types: O, A, B, AB. They have different binding. Body receive nutrition in different way. It means they require different combination of nutrition. So that's number one. Number two, that's the ancestor. So your ancestor come from Africa. Your ancestor come from Asia. Come from the Northern Europe. What they are feeding, what their resources, the vitamins, the minerals, fat, and protein are different materials, different sources. So it means that your body's DNA, through the decades or through the generations, they know which one works for your system. So you have to look at your lineage. That's number 2, right? And then number 3, you have to look at yourself individually, eating clean food, right? Organic, has a lot of vital produce, because the produce has more energy. Scientists, nobody disagree with that. Looking at the fresh vegetable, if you look at under the microscope, there's a lot of energy, means that's called bioenergetics. But we talk about that. You cannot separate between, fruits, oranges. Yeah, there's that orange, the shape, but what's inside the orange, how all the molecule is communicating, creating the vital energy, is that there's energetic communication between the neighboring cells within the orange. That's why when you eat the fresh orange, body utilize the all entire electrons, charging the batteries so efficiently, versus processed food, there's not much energy within themselves. When you eat them, body cannot suck those things, they cannot recharge them right away. So it's a simple things is just eat the produce as nature's close to nature as possible, looking at the blood type and see which food groups are more relevant to your body types. Looking at the ancestor, those 3 things, very simple.
I love it. Simple, yet difficult on a daily basis. We are inundated in the United States and the world with fast foods. We make choices. Our meal preparation isn't very good, and when we don't do that, we fall prey to portion or lack of portion control, and all of the processed foods that we know, that everyone knows, are not healthy for us. It becomes an issue, but it gets back to when you make breath work and meditation and food a priority, you will change. And over the course of changing these habits, when you change your habits, you change your actions, and when you change your actions, you'll change your results.
Yes.
Intermittent fasting, Dr. Jyun, this has gotten a lot of, I think, recent popularity. Eat to not eat. We know that intermittent fasting, and whatever that is, maybe you can explain that and its effect on autophagy, and how it can actually help, how human beings, quite frankly, were not designed to be eating all day. Give our listeners, your opinion on what exactly fasting is and the medical benefits of it, quite frankly.
Right. Well, I think number one, intermittent fasting become popular because of this doctor from Japan. He's a research doctor, and he found that you say autophagy, that particularly active these molecules in the body. They are scavenger. They clean up all those debris in the system. So those autophagy, that terms, they become very active and they clean up all those, the toxins, the chemicals, the things that are waste in the system. Then your body becomes reset and it becomes strong. Immune system becomes strong. That term becomes important by doing intermittent fasting, which is there's about 16 hours of non-eating time, especially from the evening, not eating all the way to the morning. That is the most critical time, your body to rest and then to clean up and then renew and then reset and then bring up to the vital energy back to in the morning. So that's what, your physical energy as equal to your immune system, which is the protection and your mechanism of your body that we, that's why we thrive. So intermittent fasting is really to, clean up and reset your system and then your body become more efficient back in track. So that's just the one way to look at intermittent fasting. But some people say, "Oh, I'm going to do fasting 2-3 days." Yes, you can do occasionally those called the dry fasting, drinking just the water, doing the 2 to 3 days. They'll completely shut down the organ system, especially digestive system. Nothing but the immune system ignites the fire. And then, there's many great studies shows that can really reduce the cancer cells, fighting all the bacterial, virus, fungal parasites. They do amazing things. The immune system become super strong, right? That's just you need to do occasionally when you're in that state. You have a chronic illness or you have a devastating infections and such things. But generally speaking, if you're not top active athletes, intermittent fasting, is very, very important. You're feeling great in the morning, ready to go. And then, you stop eating around 5-6 in the evening and then wait until tomorrow morning, 8 to 10. That's good. But if you're athletic, you need to have calories and fuel. You can do that. It's not sustainable for the top athletes.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned the intermittent fasting and even dry fasting. And usually every 2 months or so, I will, and when I first tried it, it was very difficult. The dry fasting, it would be water with lemon juice. And I was able to sustain that for 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
And it was difficult between the need for my body wanting caffeine. But by the second or third day, I can tell you, Dr. Jyun, euphoria. I felt I had more energy, which almost sounds counterintuitive because I wasn't putting fuel in. And it was an amazing, you talk about the ultimate reset. When clients ask us about how long can I fast, well, start with intermittent fasting, right? Give your digestive system a break. And it's very easy to eat earlier, as you pointed out. Now that you're sleeping and you're in recovery mode, your body can truly sleep and not be multitasking, trying to digest, and then sustaining that no food until sometime midday, where that 16 or 18 hours comes into play. I think once you do that and you're starting to feel better, look better, and realize that, this in America in particular, we live to eat. No, you should eat to live. You need to look at it the other way. We're constantly making dinner plans, and it's 5 o'clock, I need to eat, and it's lunchtime, as compared to, why don't we just eat to live and live to our fullest? I think that becomes crucial. Talk to us about the energy probiotics. And I know I was fortunate enough to purchase them from you a few months ago. It was tremendous on so many different levels. And as our listeners will again hear your website, and I'm on actually your shop page now, where the
Yes.
energy biotics are there, all right, and they could be purchased through Energy UP Biotics. What exactly? How can this help? How can these energy biotics help the typical person, Dr. Jyun?
Yes, well, this is one of the. I was very, I hear so many different researches, different products, as you know, in my, what I do as a medicine, integrated medicine, and looking at all those researches that there are certain good researches out there, but this energy app, which is Switzerland-based, was profound. Which the company behind the scene, they spent $8 billion for this research. I have never heard any company they spent 8 billions to do this research. So why so profound? Because this is of course according to the researcher doctor, in the group who have done. So almost he said, according to the research, says over 95 population, global population, their gut microbiome has been mutated. This is the key. Mutated. And people go, mutated, what do you mean by the mutated? When we were exposed to any antibiotics, which many people, and I including myself, I had twice in my life. When you have antibiotics or any chemical, which is in the food, pesticides, germicides, herbicides, any color dyes, any of those insults, when they come to our contact to the microbiome, they're trying to escape or they're trying to mutate, from the insult. When they mutate, they're no longer able to communicate in the right term to your DNA, because your DNA is the one that holds information, to do what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So the DNA, when they start giving the wrong information or communication to your immune cell or other cells, immune system doesn't work properly because you're getting the wrong information, wrong messages. And why they're coming from the DNA? Because DNA has been given by the mutated microbiome. So no longer having an incredible chain reaction to protection of your body, optimization of your physical body. So then your gut microbiome do not know how to properly digest all the amazing food that you're eating. We just talked about nutrition. You can throw amazing nutrition to your body or supplements even. So you're assuming that your gut microbiome will digest and metabolize and then given to your cell to use for the fuel. So that's just the ideal, right? But your most important components of the digestive system or metabolic system is not working properly. You are wasting all the nutrition, the food you spend. And then in the end, your body is not optimum. Your performance becomes so poor. So number one seems to me that from this research that unmutated. So what they have discovered was that global population of 5% hasn't been mutated. So unmutated, that young babies' microbiome, they're able to isolate them. They're able to use their completely isolated lab, which is AIs in the ozone environment. They're able to separate them and then cultivate them, and they create their complete package, 7 strain or main strain of unmutated microbiome bacteria into red Korean ginseng. This is an additional bonus. Mm-hmm. Just gut bacteria itself is not strong. When you give them, let's say 10 billions of this unmutated bacteria in your gut, there's hundreds of billions of mutated bad guys sitting there already, and a good guy comes, 10 billion, you can lose the war. Very simple, right?
Right.
So you need to go against the 10 billion. So I'm gonna give you 100 billions of power to go against the 10 billion, soldiers. How do you do that? They discovered that in South Korea, there's a research over the couple hundred years. Red Korean ginseng. It's not a simple ginseng, but red Korean ginseng. Mm-hmm. They have over 200 different molecules of ginsenosides. That particular molecule, when you tag into this microbiome in a silk formation, in a human protein, when they deliver into a gut, it kind of slowly melts, opens up, and then when gut comes, bacteria comes out, unmutated bacteria with that red koji and ginseng, the metabolites within the bacteria. It's like almost food, superfood. So then all of a sudden in the gut, this bacteria comes out, and then they have a superfood within themselves. They become 1,000 times more potent. Please hear me out. 1,000 times more potent. They're going to kick and knock all your previous bacteria out of your system, reset them, and they'll cultivate one of the most powerful original human blueprints, unmuted microbiome in your gut. If that makes sense. It's like it's a little too long. But.
Well, no, and I appreciate the explanation, Dr. Jyun. I mean, if you go to your website at www.shinkaqi.com, you'll see the Energy Up Biotics there. How long, I mean, $292 is certainly a small investment for the potential benefit. How long is this something that is sustainable? You need to do this for the rest of your life. What is the recommended time frame to use this wonderful supplement?
Yes. So according to Dr. Alviras, he's a founder and researcher, and he's an immunologist, oncologist, and a microbiologist. And he said, once you reset, takes average adult human being takes about 3 months. Which one box will last about 3 months based on the dosage. If you 2 sachets a day will last 2.5 months, but most people after 2 months, you can bring down to 1 sachet a day. That will last 3 months. This is for the average adults. People don't have a cancer. People don't have a chronic diabetes. People don't have any chronic heart disease. So, autoimmune problems. All those people are just average 3 months, completely reset. Then you don't need to continuously, as long as you're feeding all the good food now, right? And you give me a sauerkraut, has the natural probiotics in the soil. All those things will keep reinforcing your system. But the one thing I would say is that it depends on the way you live in the environment. Let's say after you reset, I'm going to move up to the top of the mountain, in a Swiss mountain. Right. I don't have any exposure to anybody except the nature. So you are living in a really great environment. Do you need to keep taking the probiotics? No, you don't, because your environment is fantastic, right? External environment influences internal environment. So let's say if you are working in a hospital or if you work in the airline industry, very saturated populated area that you yourself exposed to. Now you are receiving people who have still mutated bacteria. They're shedding as they breathe. You are inhaling their mutated bacteria, which that will start insulting again your unmutated clean gut microbiome. So eventually you might start wearing out those things based on how you do. So those cases, I recommend to take time to time. I would say it depends on the style. 2-3 times a week, just to reinforce that 1 or 2 sachets, just to give you enough to kind of power them up. So then you can kind of fight against them.
Almost like you're in maintenance mode to an extent, that once you've reset the biome and you're right, most people do not live in the high mountains of Switzerland. Most people are living in the world that you described, that they're interacting with people, they're congested, they're in office space, they're in airplanes or whatnot. So the constant resetting or maintenance of this makes so much sense. Dr. Jyun, I left the last topic, and I think the most interesting for last with us. And you have exposed and introduced me to this Shinka Quantum Institute. We could spend 4 more podcasts on trying to understand quantum-based methods and quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement. It is such a very conceptual, abstract term, but I think it's crucial for you in this first podcast, and I'm so excited to be part of your mission and joining you in this crusade for athletes and just people in general to really live their life to fullest. Talk to the audience about the quantum component of this. And I know yesterday I was so proud of myself. I got my quantum box and I assembled it. And you and I were talking about the application of it, and I read more about it. But it's a term that scares people because it is so counterintuitive to constant and particles. The quantum mechanics lives in the invisible part of our world. If you can, and I know this is a tough assignment for you, make it so that people can at least be curious enough about it to learn more about it. But what is this quantum mechanics, quantum energy that most people don't really understand?
Yes, I know you can go into the rabbit hole when you start talking about the big principle mechanic behind them. But let's just talk about two things. Right? In a realm of a quantum science, the word came out early 2000, technically around 1920s. This is where Einstein first disagreed with this principle, this concept. He said, everything needs to have a speed of light, as we know, right? Speed of light.
Yes.
So then, there's a time, there's a space. So they have to have a certain time to arrive from A point to B point. That's the Newtonian physics like that. A plus B becomes C. But this new concept or principle came up by this brilliant physicists. They challenged Einstein. Says, no, actually, Einstein, with this new theory, which is the two objects, just say two identical twins. If I understand, two identical twins, they have a complete duplicate of other person. Okay.
Yep.
So when there's a term called entanglement, those two identical twins are entangled. One person, let's just say, if you kind of poke this one person to the arm, the other twin, like 100 miles away, they kind of felt the same area being poked. And this is the way, identical twins always they share with us, that, when I thought about, my brother or my sister, my identical brother and sister, I thought about you at the same time, or they're calling each other at the same time. Often they have the same phenomena. When they feel something, they feel the same time. There's no delay. So then the scientists say, what is this all about? Because the quantum principle is that when the two objects, just take the smallest molecule called the photons or electrons, twins, identical. You separate them 100 miles away. If you influence that one side, 100 miles away of the other twin of those little electrons or these photons, they move in the same way or behave the same way. There's no delay. So the Einstein said, that's not possible. It takes space and time, so it got to be some delay. But then no, quantum physicists said, if it's entangled, it happens at the same time. So this is where it kind of boggles people's mind. But anyway, later on, Einstein admit that he have this famous term called a spooky action at the distance. This is very spooky, but if there's a new principle, a new idea as a science, I'm going to accept them. That happened in the 1930s. So fast forward in the last 90 years, what happened? Nikola Tesla, Nikola Tesla, maybe some people don't know, but Tesla company,
yes.
The electrical car, Tesla, cell phone, MRI, all those devices that we're using every day. What is the principle behind them? Because there's a quantum mechanic behind them. That's why those modern technology exists. So things that we couldn't see before, because they are, physical body, we can see visually. Okay, I can see my skin. Well, let's look at under the skin. What's happening? Well, it's called a microscope. You look at the microscope, you can see the blood, you can see the skin cells, all those things, very small one. All the scientists know. But if you get into even get smaller and smaller and smaller, become the teeny, like a subatomic particle called the photons, the electrons, and they do weird behaviors, and the science couldn't comprehend. That's why they created a new term called the quantum mechanics, quantum science, because they could not prove or they cannot understand in a previous theory. So, let's wrap up here. As a quantum mechanic, having this type of behavior principle that all the scientists have discovered. So what this the technology can do, when you go into this, we call the quantum space, In the quantum space, what happened? Your physical expression, your body becomes the best version of the self. It's almost like I'll give you an original blueprint. This was who you are. But you got being twisted because of chemicals, exposure, your physical stress, emotional stress. You got so much layers. That's why your body cannot perform well. But let's just put you on the reset button into this quantum space. When you do that, your body will start remembering, oh, this is the way I should be feeling, the emotion or energy, the physical. And then when you come out of that space, which is kind of almost like scientific world, the movie, when you come out of it, your energy start become more, and then your physical performance become better, your mind become more calmer. All those phenomena happen because in that quantum space help you to get you the reset, to push in the reset button.
So interesting, Dr. Jyun. So the quantum box that I have along those lines, so people can understand that, I actually have it. I brought it in today to our office to show the athletes and whatnot. And they looked at me funny and said, Tony, your whole body fits in there? That's impossible. and I said, no, by simply bringing my hands into this space, this resetting under quantum mechanics happens.
Yes.
How else can I explain that to them? Because they think that, I think some of them today, Dr. Jyun, think that I'm intoxicated or I'm on hallucinogenic drugs by doing this.
Yeah, to me, like you, of course, this company who innovated and then create this technology. They're not going to tell you how this works because that's just a confidentiality, proprietary technology. Yep. But what I like about any those advanced devices on those science is that I want to see. I love the research, so I like about randomized, control double control study. So which means that any scientific world, if you do the randomized double-blind placebo control study, it's hard to argue because if the person tester didn't know what was tested, but they take the blood sample and then somehow I had to kind of put the hands in the box. I don't know what it does. So there's no such a placebo effect because you don't know what this is all about.
Right.
Then after you put your hands and then take the hands out, 15 minutes later, take the blood samples out. If you look at under the microscope, your red blood cell, all the behavior changed and cleaned up and become beautiful blueprints. Scientists will look at it. If 100 people did 100 times, they'll see, wow, exact same behavior. What is happening? Because those phenomena won't happen simply, even you give a medication or supplements, right?
Yes.
So this is where, it's very difficult to explain because, even the quantum scientists will say, they're hard to bring out the layman term exactly how this works, but they know when you go into the quantum space in the field, somehow our body, physical body, which is human being or animals, or even vegetable, fruits, fish, anything exists on this earth, they'll bring up to the original blueprints, which are the best version of themselves, as good as possible.
I think that is a very interesting and very layman's way of explaining, right? This is simply a reset of the quantum field allows for your best version of your DNA blueprint to resurface again. I now have ammunition as I talk to people about this, Dr. Jyun. I can't thank you enough. Shinka Quantum Institute, Dr. Jyun. We will have you on again. I implore all of our listeners to go to Dr. Jyun's website and learn. There's some great resources and clinical studies that are done. You'll see the full sampling of some of the products that not only have I personally purchased and are using, but you'll see and learn about the reasoning behind it. And Dr. Jyun, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully we'll see you again in the United States. We'll have you back on as a podcast guest soon. And for today, stay in good quantum space, my friend.
Yes. And my pleasure. Can I add one more thing? So because for the listener,
Of course.
so, to appreciation of this, to try to really feel, because I want to experience the feel and the change, and use the example, so that creates the ripple effect. So because on behalf of Tony, Tony's invitation, if you go to a website, if you want to check out, whether your protection and enhancement energy pendant or even the quantum block, those lead up technology, you can put the Tony 21, Tony 21. You get a 21% discount because of Tony. You get that incredible special discounts.
Dr. Jyun, thank you very much. I'm going to make sure that besides people that are listening to this, we'll make sure anyone else that I think respects my opinion, and if Tony is hanging out with Dr. Jyun, there must be something to this. I thank you for that. I didn't realize you'd be doing that, but hopefully the listening audience will take advantage of that, and we'll make sure in the follow-up email that's going out, we'll get the hyperlink over to your site, because even if they don't purchase anything, learning from you and getting the information that you so generously have provided on your website, that'll get them curious. And if they become curious, as we say on campus here, Dr. Jyun, that becomes education. Because as long as we say curious and really understand that that's the growth mindset that we all need to have, some of these products and services that you're providing are so crucial for their overall well-being. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much, Tony. And because your work and because each of us, we have expertise and we need to cooperation, that's going to grow us as a community. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And as we say on our campus here, we don't say have a good day. We say make today great. That's an affirmation. Okay, if we make today great, yeah, not hoping, right? Hope is, there's a time and a place to hope, but make today great is an affirmation, and it's a much more powerful message to the brain. So make today great, Dr. Jyun.
Yes, make today great, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you.